Hi, this is Belinda from Belinda's Book Nook, and I'm here today to do a book chat on one of the books that I read in October, and it is Americanah by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I just had to record this again because I said her name backwards. I don't know how I did it, but yeah, I did. So I did this as a buddy read with Patrice. She is one of the people that watches my videos and has become book friend. And we decided this is the book that we were going to do a buddy read on. I think it's really good to do buddy reads periodically. I don't do them all the time because of my pace, and sometimes I just don't want to have that rigid schedule. But what I like about it is that you'll read a book, and through the discussions you have, you're open to experiencing the book in a broader sense. So things that I might not have noticed, she might have noticed, or we both noticed the same thing, or we both had a different reaction to certain things. And it just really makes for a really lovely reading experience. I've had that with Alba as well. It's just, it's really cool. So this is the one that we chose to read. Still have my flags in there. That's in the schedule, even back here too, which I should take off. Every time I wanted to make sure that I mentioned something, when we did our weekly check-ins, I would put a flag. So that's where you see all of the color here. But this book follows Ifemelu and Obinze. It's kind of a love story, an immigration story, a story about race relations, immigration, not even just to the United States, but to London, to England. And about family. It was a really good book. I think that the story followed Ifemelu going, she was younger, and her experience with her, her teens especially, and her relationship with her parents and her aunt, and her perceptions of the United States prior to going there, and making the decision to go there, and then her experience when she arrives here. One of the things that the book talks about is, it gives you the impressions that she had prior to going to the United States. A lot of it was based on what exposure they get to from the media. So, for example, they may have watched, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and some of these other African-American shows and really thought, gee, this might be a really great experience. And so there was some level of disillusionment, when she did immigrate to the United States. And the love story between her and Obinze, and how, initially they were together when she went to the United States, and certain circumstances led to the demise of their relationship. You see him immigrate to England and his experience there as an immigrant, and her experience in the United States, her aunt, who she really looked up to growing up, and you watch that relationship. Her aunt with her nephew go to the United States. You get to see the experience of a single Black female. She wasn't initially, but she ended up being a single Black female that had immigrated with her child to the United States, and what her experience was like raising the child and the school systems in the United States. You get to see that. So what happens with this story is that there is the story of Ifemelu and Obinze, and even the aunt and the nephew. You get to hear that through her. But Ifemelu starts, through various circumstances, ends up writing a blog post, and it becomes super popular. People like to read what she says in her blogs, and so much so that she ends up making money from it, and being able to help support herself while she's in the United States. And so the book has the story of her, but at the end of many of the chapters, she will include one of Ifumelu's blog posts. Let me tell you, I think every one of them are bookmarked in here. I feel like every one of those blog posts could be extracted from this and just create a mini book of just truth-telling. That's what I'm going to call it. They were so on point. I would say, oh my God, yes. So well said, well done. It definitely elevated this book, because one of the things, and I think I had mentioned that to Patrice, was that I feel like the story was good. Was it exceptional? I don't know. You know, I know that this book got a lot of hype. I feel like the blog posts are why. And that might be not fair to the story. I feel the story is important. I think the story, you know, the other thing that's really important about the story is the story showed her experience going to the United States with preconceived notions, and a lot of that just be, you know, thrown out the window when she realizes how hard it is, and you know, trying to preserve her identity, and, you know, toying with whether her accent, her hair, skin color, how all of that played into her experience in the United States. And then when she went back to Nigeria, you know, in her mind, and I imagine this would be the case, you immigrate somewhere, but I'm still Nigerian, right? And this is what she's saying in her head, I'm thinking. And when she comes back, even though I'm still Nigerian, she's different. She's different now. She's different by the people that are there that have not, you know, traveled to anywhere else. They stayed, you know, that have stayed in Nigeria. You are now another. You're not really one of us. And as much as she tried to fight that when she got back home, she realized she was disillusioned with a lot of things. Like, you know, things that she is growing up that she felt like she really valued or thought was great. She was like, no, that's not how I feel now. She felt ashamed for, you know, like missing a Starbucks, or, you know, some of the comforts that she might have experienced in the United States. She felt ashamed that she, you know, did gravitate to some of the discussions, because she, at one point in the book, she ends up meeting with a bunch of other Nigerians that had traveled and lived abroad. And I think that otherism, you know, she goes to the United States and she's the other. She's the Nigerian immigrant. She's never quite fitting in, right? And so she returns home, and now, because of that experience, people are treating her differently, and she's seeing things differently. So that, I think, is an important aspect to the story to see. The same thing with Obinze. His experience was different in London, and, you know, his return was not voluntary. Hers was, his wasn't. His visa had expired and he wanted to stay and he couldn't, and he got caught and he had to come back. So I think that his experience was different coming back. He was able to, I feel like he was able to integrate back in Nigeria a lot easier than she was. And I don't know if it's just the dynamics of also he's a male and she's a female. But, you know, even her work ethic was different, because she had experienced working in the United States. And when she came back, and particularly the part where she's working at this magazine, she just couldn't understand why, you know, one of the successes that she had was doing these blog posts that just spoke truth to power. And she felt like this magazine was just kind of going along with things, you know, worrying so much about the competitor, but not trying to put themselves out there in any way, and being very conservative. And she didn't really understand that. And so I think that, I've read a lot of different immigrant stories. I think it is a good story, right? I do. But I think what elevated this story more were the blog posts, which I love. And actually, we'll probably go back and reread them. They're so applicable now. They're very timely, right? So, and this book was written a while back, so some things just never change, right? I really enjoyed it. I still think it's a great book. I'm still questioning whether if you pulled out those blog posts, would people have gravitated towards this as much as they did? I don't think so. I don't. I think that people would like the book, and people would still say it was a good story, and it captured the immigrant experience, but also returning home. Sometimes you get the immigrant experience. Usually, people are going somewhere and they stay there. Neither of them stayed in the places that they went. They ended up coming back. The love story was there. We're in this is a spoiler, so I can say my thoughts on the ending. I don't know. No, I don't know. I don't know. When I feel unsettled with the ending, I'm always thinking, okay, well then what would have made it better for you? And I don't have an answer to that, so I can't say that it's a bad ending. I just was unsettled with it. But that's all of this said. I think it's a great book. I just question, like I said, all of the accolades, because I really think that those blog posts really elevated this book and brought it to the next level. And I think that is important. It's a part of the book. It's so well said. Like I said, I think it should be a little book among itself of just truths, to view time to time, just to remind yourself, So I do recommend the book. I think it is a great story. I do, like I said, I think that it was interesting to see how things happened. There were some, traumatic moments obviously in there as well that were kind of hard to read. I was, with regards to Obinze and his journey and him, observing, his fellow, Nigerians when he was in London, and seeing how, when he first got there, and he never really, the difference I think in her experience and his is that he never really changed himself, right? I feel like he was himself when he went there and when he came back. I mean, he came back and yeah, he was influenced to some degree, but I don't feel like he had the experience that she had as a Black female in the United States, where her accent was mocked, where her skin color, where when meeting other Nigerians that were there, she's seeing how that they had to change themselves to be accepted by society and to be elevated in the society. And I think that I feel like it was more traumatic for her than it was for him. And I feel like, I don't know if I think he was able to see and keep himself kind of guarded. So even when he went back to Nigeria, he could see people were treating him differently because he had gone overseas, but he was like, that's absurd. It doesn't have anything to do, so when he was able to establish wealth, like he could still keep himself level-headed to some extent, and so I think that there was that. And I know, so there's a good thing to look at in terms of the difference in both of their experiences. They went to different countries, first of all, so it is going to be different. But I think I don't know. I was going to say maybe his would be the same if he went to the United States, but I don't think I can say that. If they went to the same country, what would it be in different times so that they're not having each other to lean on? Would they have that same type of similar experience? Thing to think about. Good book. Don't want to talk too long. that's my thoughts on it. I hope you guys read it. Let me know what you guys thought about the book, and I will talk to you later. Bye.